Hello, and welcome back to Dev Game Club, a weekly podcast in which two veteran game developers look at games from the past to discuss their relevance and impact today. I'm Rhett Duville. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, a man who knows that sacrifice is built upon the motive of love and the ability of courage.
Tim Longo.
Or maybe you don't know that. Maybe that's just something you suspect. But I picked sacrifice because you're a tinker.
It's true. I am. Ironically, I don't have that.
Nope, you don't have that yet. It's some of the things. It's one of the things that's remarkable about this game. Of course, is Ultima IV. Is that every time I go back to places, I find new things.
Yeah.
And so there are places that I went pretty early because I was basically trying to follow when I started. I was trying to follow the guidebook, the History of Britannia, which is like, well, from Britain you can go. There's a pass that takes you basically to the city of justice, and west of there is Empath Abbey. And like I was trying to do those things, and then at a certain point I was like, okay, now I'm just going to go off on my own because I got bored. And so now I missed things in some of these locations. I'm sure but every time I go back to a place, there's something new that I didn't find, or I have new information. One of the things that you had mentioned was, the quests being, tying between towns in a way that you were surprised by.
Yeah. We talked. I think we scratched the surface of it a little bit last episode, but the density of the game at this time. And I think we looked up maybe some years for Final Fantasy, and we know that the Gold Box and such games and the Eye of the Beholder games were after many years after this. And I think
Pool of Radiance is 88 and Eye of the Beholder is 91, just for comparison.
Yeah, it's just this game is doing a lot with a little, and it's just continues. I mean, I haven't been able to play as usual as much as you have been able to, but still, there's so much going on, and there's a sense when you first, like you said, I didn't follow anything when I started, and because of that, I kind of accidentally found some things that that were maybe like Vesper or whatever that were Vesper. Isn't that a town in a Final Fantasy game in 6? There's a town called Vesper in Final Fantasy 6.
That might be true.
Anyway, it's just dawning on me now, but or something like that. So maybe it's an homage, but
Esper. Espers are the magical beings.
Oh, Esper, that's what it is. Yeah. Anyway, so I knew there was something. So yeah, I just so you kind of roam around. You start using the moon gates, and you go to each town, and you, like you said, you think you talk to everybody, and you get a sense of things, and then you hit somebody who says, something about somebody you've met before. But of course, you didn't have the information you do now.
Yeah.
And in a way, like I think we talked about Outer Wilds and a few other games that are, that sense of everything exists when you start the game. You just don't know it.
Yeah.
And runes, as an example, like the spirituality rune is in the castle from the beginning.
Right.
You just have to know where to search.
Yeah, behind a secret door.
Behind a secret door in a treasure room.
Yeah.
In the corner, and it's like, spoiler. But when I had been in there multiple times because I'm stealing gold from the king,
which you're gonna pay for.
I will pay for.
You're gonna pay for that.
We'll see. It'll be.
Well, it won't matter because you'll be like, well, and I didn't finish this game either, and this will be why. Yeah.
Maybe so. For the record, though, everyone just listening, you don't have to finish games. That's not a requirement for video game playing. But anyway, yeah. So it's just, like you said, there's layer upon layer of the onion, and like any good, I think, RPG, but also open world-ish game, there's this sense of, the layers of the world where you are traveling around and exploring and finding kind of the basic elements of the game, and then you're getting to know the world better. I'm thinking of, for instance, a game like Witcher 3 or something that is like, for me, still from an open world RPG perspective, my favorite example, where you get a general sense of it, and then after 100 hours, I think I put about 250 hours in that game. After 100 hours, you really know the world. You know the towns. You know the key players in the towns, and you start kind of moving around the world in a very robust manner. And I can kind of see that starting to happen a
Mm,
lot less for me than for you. But I'm starting. I got a boat, um, and I know I have the moon gates a little bit more under. I mean, I can always logic them out, but it's getting a little more natural, I guess I would say,
yeah,
to
yeah,
know like, okay, I need to go back here to go there, and and you're kind of it's memorization essentially. But and we've talked about this a lot of times with games we played, where once you really put the time in, you know the world, it becomes more of a second nature.
yeah. I think for me, the one place where that tends to fall down is in the NPCs, and the reason for that is they don't they don't have the features that a more modern game would have, where you can see a unique representation of them. They share
Yeah,
they share sprites, based on their class or job, typically. And, because all the guards look the same. And you might remember, oh, right, there's that one shepherd who's a 5 foot pregnant woman who hates sheep. Like, you might remember that. But there's like five fighters in Jellam that I'm like, yeah, I never remember their names. I remember Hrothgar because that's like Beowulf's grandfather or something like that, and I remember X because that's weird. And there's a lot of reasons why I find X weird these days in 2026. But even then, I probably would have remembered there's a guy named X. But then it's like Sir something and a couple others, and I'm just like I don't know,
yeah,
and I get a flavor of the town of like, oh right, this is the town with lots of fighters because it's valor, and all of that, but I kind of lose track of who the people are. But then you will talk to somebody and they'll say, oh, this person in this town, this named person in this town will tell you that. And so in my notes, I will have, if I've found that information, I will have that to draw me back there and like direct me. So if you are not a person who can remember or who writes down all the names of all these NPCs on all these places, there are ways that the game pushes you back, to that. And that's good. That's good design right there,
yeah,
because
yeah. I
it's
just think there's
overcoming that limitation, I guess.
right, exactly. Yeah. No, I mean, it definitely, yeah, it's definitely not perfect. I think I'm constantly trying to put it in its era, in its year, though, as well. And when people were, I think, more tolerant of having to keep
Oh,
track of
it's
things
it's
themselves, and
remarkable. It is remarkable for its era.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, especially once you get like, even like, just to give a tiny example, even the process of getting a ship, at least for me,
Yeah.
was a little bit of luck, and then some fighting, and then you're like, okay, I got a ship. But the fact that the transition of getting one is what it is, you go to a combat map, you fight the ship, you go to a combat map. When you're on, at least this is what happened for me, I assume this is how you do it normally.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
there's other ways, but
No, I think
um
in this one you only get a ship by taking it
fighting.
over from pirates. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you're like, okay, I'm familiar with the combat map. Okay, now we're on. There's a boat, and there's actually geometry. You have to kind of get on the boat if you want to attack everybody or whatever, lure them off. There's a little bit of tactics there, and then you kill everybody. Then
You
you
can also
take their
fire
boat.
over the walls.
Yeah, and I was doing that. I guess, yeah, maybe,
But
maybe
if people are on the back rank of the boat, they might be
I think they were too
protected by
far or something.
masts and things like that.
Something. Yeah,
Yeah.
it didn't seem like it was
I
going
find
all
the
the way,
boats
but
I find the boats a little annoying to fight from or to. So
yeah, I mean, they're
because of that. Yeah.
bottlenecks. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. severe
But
problem.
then, it's just the concept that the games functionally allows me to then take this battle map, like conceptually. I'm not actually
Right.
on the battle map when I'm sailing, but we've just had a fight and then we finish the fight and then I go and board the ship and now the ship is my vehicle. And now I'm in the water, and the water has its own obstacles of like depth of water and waves and things, so you can't go everywhere.
Plus
But I thought
enemies.
and enemies, and I thought that was kind of clever. And then there's different combat rules when you're in the boat, I think, but I haven't actually had to fight anything. Because you only can fire certain ways, is that right?
You can only fire broadsides, right? You can only fire off the left or the right side of your boat, relative, right?
Right.
So if something's approaching, you want to turn so that your left or right, port or starboard, I should say, side of the boat is facing that thing, so you can fire at them. You can't fire forward or aft.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah,
yeah, it's just astounding because then that allowed me to get to my first dungeon by getting the boat. But it's just, again, the depth at which the types of things it's allowing you to do, and that it allows you that transition to board a ship, and I don't know. We
so
talked
much
about it.
so much of the world opens up as well when you have the ship, and I
Yeah.
can remember. I I'm pretty sure I'm remembering 6. It's possible I'm remembering 3, but there's things in one of those where, like, in the boat, you need to actually go find I don't know, like a whirlpool or something that.
That rings a bell for 3 for me.
Yeah, it
I
might
don't
be
I don't
3 then, that
remember.
takes you to,
Yeah.
like, a special place you can't get to any other way. It's
Yeah,
like, "Are you kidding me?"
yeah.
I tried with what I think it was a waterspout and not a whirlpool, so I saw a waterspout and my boat got destroyed and I died, and got woken up with, Lord British. And in that case, reloaded the
Oh.
save because I lost several thousand golds in the interim, and I was like, no, that's not okay. I saved recently. I'm just gonna go back to that, because it takes a while to amass a few thousand gold, and I have some things I'm saving for. So,
Hmm. So
uh,
the water spouts are those is that I'm not even sure that there's like a bluish um
I have since also seen what looks like a whirlpool to me, but they move. So the water spout basically looks like a blue tornado on the
yeah.
water. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
a whirlpool is like a spiral. But I haven't caught up to a whirlpool yet. So, which brings me to the thing I don't like about the boat.
Yeah.
Is that it is trying to simulate the wind and tacking. The wind changes about as frequently and maybe as frequently as the moon stages do, phases, um, which we can talk about in a minute because we wanted to revisit the moon gates. But there's a vast ocean in, on the cloth map, it's sort of in the bottom right. And it's a good part of the map, and I want to comb through that because I'm sure there's something there I've missed.
Mm.
I know there's something there. I found a couple places already in the ocean that I'm like, I don't know if this is a thing, but it's a thing I'm curious about. There's some I'll just say red pluses in the map somewhere. I don't know what to do about it. I couldn't approach them because they had shallows, so I'm like, I don't know. Maybe.
Red pluses, like literally red pluses,
Well,
or like X marks
the
the spot.
they're tiles. They're multiple tiles that form what looks like a plus mark. So whatever that would be, I guess 5 tiles that are this kind of wavy red stuff, and I don't know what it is. I haven't figured. That's a mystery I haven't figured out. And then there's another place where it's just the way the art is done makes me think of a whirlpool, and I could get to the center of it, but nothing happened. But maybe I'm
Mm.
supposed to do something there that I don't know, like,
Yeah.
read a special book or, whatever. I haven't uncovered that. So there's a couple locations I
Or
found.
be there during a moon gate.
Yeah, or be there during a specific phase of the moon. Yeah, also possible. Thanks. Hadn't thought of that. Damn it. So, like, there's a lot of things that could be going on in these places, but I'm like, I also know there's probably islands there that I haven't found, And that's all of this stuff is in the lore book. Like, yeah, this is what we know of Sosaria right now. There's more out there. And because the boat tries to simulate tacking without actually having enough directional options, you can't really tack. Tacking is when you go diagonally to a wind, not perpendicular to a wind. And because you can't go diagonally in this game as a boat, you are stuck just like going fast in the directions you don't want to go. I want to go east. Being able to go north and south very quickly is not helpful to me. I want to go east. So it makes it hard to cover a lot of ground and feel like you're actually, like, I want to basically segment the ocean and be like, I want to go east-west across the ocean and then go north, south or whatever, 5 tiles, 6 tiles, and then go east-west again to try to just like make sure I see all of the map. And it makes it hard to do some of those things, which is a little frustrating. But I admire the attempt, and especially in a game this early, to be like, yeah, we're just kind of, as they did in 3, I think. There's also going to be a boat. It's a lot. So there might also be a flying machine out there, Tim.
Oh, wow, really?
I have heard rumors. Rumors. I have not worked out what those rumors mean or how to act on those rumors, but maybe next week.
Interesting.
I'll have more information for you.
Another Final Fantasy.
Yeah, if it turned out to be an airship, I'd be like, really? With Sid? Imagine if Sid were there. So, anyway.
And there's even horses, which you've found. I haven't found the horses, but
it's in a. Oh, I don't think you've been to that town. Yeah, there's a town where you can buy a horse, but I don't think that. I haven't found a way in which the horse is beneficial to have.
Yeah, it might just be because.
Yeah, just for the fun, to have a horse. It changed my sprite, and it cost 300 gold, and I haven't found anything useful to do with it. But maybe I can sacrifice it at the sacrifice shrine. I don't know.
Your theory on the food might be it, though.
It could be. Yeah, I did. That was only something when we were talking pre-show. Like, could it be that I go through rations more slowly if I have the horse? And that could be true. But I have not. That only occurred to me talking about it this evening. So I haven't tested that out. But that's the sort of thing that could be true in this game. It's just wild.
Yeah, we didn't talk about it in pre-show, and we don't need to talk about it deeply, but another surprise small thing that I didn't realize happened is while you're resting, really anywhere, you can be interrupted.
Mm-hmm.
Even in a town, in an inn, I was attacked.
Yep. Yeah, it happened to me too.
And some rogues like bust in, and there's a battle map for the room.
For the rooms, yeah. I hate the one for camping just because there's just so many obstacles, and because ranged weaponry is an advantage in combat, making combat go more quickly. It's a little frustrating at times, but that map in particular, and the ones in the mountains or the hills, I should say, I don't like either.
Those are complex,
because of the same reason. But it's fine. I get it.
I get what they're going for.
Yeah,
I'm just amazed that they have the basic foundation of this stuff, so I can see how they could have easily added it, but it was a nice kind of delightful surprise to be, because I don't know, traditionally you feel in a lot of RPGs it's like resting in an inn is safe, right?
Or in your own house.
Yeah,
in a certain D&D campaign.
Yeah, exactly. You'd think so, but I think that's what they were trying to do in D&D. There's oftentimes you're attacked in your own home.
Yeah, fair.
Because that's something
DMs
that's more flexible. Yeah, it's just something that you can do more easily in a tabletop. So the fact that they wanted to simulate it in this, it was just a delightful surprise to be like, oh, I think I literally was in Britannia.
Britain is the town.
I was in that town and got attacked, and I thought, well, if there's any place I'm going to be safe, it's there. And then, so they're just little things like that. The first time that I got attacked at a camp in the overworld was also a nice surprise. So yeah, it's just we've said this phrase a lot during the podcast over the 10 years, because the games we're playing are so significant in and of themselves, but it feels like a yes game, where they had a lot of things they wanted to do, and we didn't play 1, 2, and 3. So, and I have a very, very vague memory of 3, but I'm sure 4 is lauded as kind of the tent pole, the first big tent pole of the series, maybe because they had iterated to a point where they had kind of a critical mass of features all in one game for the first time. I don't know, but I mean, you've played the others, and I don't know what they added each time, but
Yeah,
still, this
I
one's so
haven't kept
impressive.
track of it in that way. I played 1, 2, and 3 before the podcast. Otherwise, I would have probably been trying to keep track of it a little bit better. When I played that, it was more than a decade ago that I did that. It was there are a lot of things that are there though in the early ones. I think this one, as we've talked about, the real change is like what the philosophy
Philosophical
stuff, the quests, his
spirituality,
sort of diagramming out these virtues and like making it a quest about learning to be a good person, right? Basically.
right?
I
That was
think
a big
that's the big
difference.
the big
Yeah,
difference from the other ones. The other ones are very much like there's a big bad, you're going to go kill him,
right.
and get there. You got to figure out how to do it. And I think that's very true. And those games are of different quality in my opinion. But a lot of the bones are still there. Um, the the dungeons. One of the things we were asking each other last week was like whether they were first person, because they had been all the way back to 1. When you went into a dungeon, you were in wizardry style mode where you're navigating a grid, or for that matter, Eye of the Beholder, much later, navigating this grid and seeing monsters, ahead of you. And, in 1, it was wireframe, and here it's flat color. So they're, filled polys instead of wireframe for those polys. And it's little steps, but each time they're pushing on every feature that they have.
Mm,
And in this one in particular, are also pushing, I think, on the import of what you're doing overall. I, obviously people may differ on that. There are people who probably just love the, like, I'm going to go kill the big bad. But to me, this is a real, there's a point of view here. And it's
yeah.
not just the big bad guy is bad. That's a point of view, I guess, but it's, he has his reasons, Tim. Um, you know, and here
Yeah.
it's a lot more complicated than that. Like, I'm not thinking
Villainy.
about a big bad.
Right,
The
right.
big bad is not running away from all the battles. So
Well, you're the big bad. Like the player has the potential to be the villain in a way.
mm,
And and that's kind of why I'm dabbling in some of that stuff, right? I did discover, which we talked about in pre-show, that because I'm fleeing battles for convenience often because I don't want to spend the time. Um, but then it turns out that impacts your valor, and so now that that'll come back and bite me. But I am intentionally stealing gold to see what will happen. And you know, we games have chased this concept of do your actions matter from the beginning.
yeah.
Um, and even games today, I mean, well, let's use a recent, not too recent, but semi-recent. If you just take the BioWare games or Mass Effect or something, right?
Hmm.
It's like, oh, your
I
choices
was going to say
matter.
BioShock
BioShock, yeah, yeah.
because of the
BioShock,
little sisters, right?
yeah,
The
exactly.
whole
That
thing
was
was
a
like,
yeah,
they basically were like, well, does it really matter? But even
right.
something like Dishonored, actually Dishonored, I guess, pushes it further because you can be, but it's still like a gradation of chaos, and this game has that too. Like, you always bump up against this reality of like, players don't want to be held accountable to a mistake that they made, right? I remember playing a game, which will remain unnamed, where a choice I made, I didn't know I was making a choice. It's like it
Yeah.
wasn't presented clearly enough to me that like you're doing a thing that's going to close off another thing, and I had no idea that that was happening, and it was early in this game, and I guess it was teaching me, or it did teach me. I don't know if it was meant to teach me, but it did teach me like, oh, this is the thing that can happen is like you choose A, you're never going to be able to choose B. I had no idea. I didn't know to expect that. I hadn't been prepared for that. Um, and so in general, games try to avoid that. Like, oh, you have a karma system where it's like, well, sure, you killed a 5-year-old, but you can be a good guy. Like, it's like, no, well, that's not really how morality works. But in this game too, I believe you can claw your way out of those kind of holes. It's numbers in the end, right? Of course, it's not a permanent blot on your record that you're stealing from the king, though, perhaps it should be. You
Hey,
know?
I was under the impression nobody saw me do it. There are
Mm,
some rooms there are some rooms where, there are people either guarding it or standing in the room with you, and the treasure room in the castle is behind a secret door, and
right.
and there
So
are
you're saying
oftentimes
those guys who stole from the Louvre, when there were no guards present was
Well,
totally
no, I'm talking about well, they were caught, right? I mean,
well, they
I'm
weren't
talking
caught. They
about
still haven't
I
been caught.
I'm, well, yeah, anyway, they will be caught,
Sure.
in real life. I'm talking about basically the thief class, right? Like,
Right, of course.
how do you adjudicate a thief class? And there are a lot of good thieves in whatever, D&D,
Sure,
blah, blah,
yeah.
blah,
Yeah,
right?
and in this world now, right, is
Yeah, no,
basically
it's
yeah.
much more binary, I think, and but I mean for good reason. They're trying to he's trying to make a point. They're trying to make a point. And the reason I was bringing up, I think bringing up BioShock is a good example. I think pitting BioShock and Mass Effect against each other. If you remember I'll call it marketing, but I was going to say rhetoric around around the decision system in
Mm,
Mass Effect, right? Which was meant to be the sort of like natural evolution from some of the earlier Bioshock games, where it's like Paragon and Renegade, and there's like every decision you make impacts that, and but then they kind of tell you what
yeah, right.
decisions,
Yeah.
so it kind of
It's
it ends
literally right on the screen. "Hey, do you wanna be a
yeah,
Paragon? Hey, do you
it
wanna be a
ends up being
Renegade?" Yeah,
watered down,
yeah,
and
yeah.
and it's again lauded for this amazing, isn't it amazing that we do this? But then I'm playing this game from 1984 called Ultima IV,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I'm getting these voice lines from these NPCs that are very philosophical and spiritual, and they're making you think about your actions, and they're kind of like they're also shaming you in
Yeah,
certain cases.
yeah,
There's a lot of yes no questions about like, are you
yeah.
just? Are
"Are
you
you are you
honorable?
always valiant?" And it's like,
Yeah.
and it's like,
And then,
"Well, actually,
yeah.
no. There was that one time I ran away from a dragon because I had seen it for the first time, and I was terrified."
Yeah, exactly. So it's just it's doing things in a much oh, and then the other example I would use is Witcher 3 again, right? To use a modern example where they they did a fairly good job at this for sure, but they were given a lot of credit for gray area decisions where
Mm,
it's like, well, none of your options here are good, are great, right?
right.
But they're your only ones. So which one are you going to take? And they all have repercussions. And I think to CD Project Red's credit, like they stuck to their guns on that for the most part. And there are a lot of times when you're like, yeah, I didn't feel good about this, but it's kind of my best option. And but this game, Ultima 4 is already doing that stuff,
Yeah.
or and I don't know. It's just it kind of just it makes me think about modern RPGs that and a lot of times it's just marketing, to be honest, but they boast things um that have been around, and done
Yeah.
better.
Yeah, I mean, it's inherently a limitation of the, lack of human interaction, lack of the DM or GM, right? That and the player, right? I mean, because the player
Well,
can't
yeah.
voice any, right? I mean, it's right. There's a lack of ability for the player to voice any possible solution, right? You might look at something. I have not played The Witcher that much. It's one of those ones where one of these days, maybe after the podcast.
I played 1, 2, and 3 in a row.
Yeah, oof,
And
that won't be me. I don't want to be out there collecting cards.
Two's really good. Cards are only in the third, so you're good.
Okay. No, that's not the cards I meant. The not for Gwent. There are other cards in the first one. Where was I going to go with that? You sidetracked me and now I lost it.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Oh yeah. So the player doesn't have all the options a player could think of, obviously, right? It's, we don't have that, and of course, the GM would be there to adjudicate those, right? And you can't present a player an infinite palette, and neither can neither can you adjudicate an infinite palette, right? So you don't, in these moments where you're like, the only thing I would want to do is shoot these people is not an option, right? In the middle of the dialogue, and things like that. And it also often the shallowness of the system is revealed, when you choose, you've saved before an important conversation, you choose option A, you get 500 XP, you quit, you load, you choose option B, and you get the same 500 XP. It's just like, it's just it's a layer of frosting on top of what's actually going to happen systematically. And you do feel something from that, but you were limited in what you could feel, like you're going to feel bad.
And I think
in the Bloody Baron or whatever, which I haven't played, but know about, you're going to feel bad. Like it's bad,
that's the sort of, that's the penultimate example that I think everyone will come back to. Still today, I don't know if there's a better example that I can think of, but maybe in Cyberpunk, that I haven't played that yet, but because I know there's a lot. They take these concepts, that studio takes these concepts further. But I have another studio in the same vein to mention an example too, and I think you hit the nail on the head earlier, that the reason I want to bring this example up, that probably people are yelling at their listening devices about, is Baldur's Gate 3, which I've played a lot of, finished it, and then and I'm also doing a solo playthrough, so I'm over 200 hours in that collectively. But so apparently the reason I want to bring it up is, and I'll try to keep this short, but apparently the first, I don't know the details, and I'll probably get some of them wrong, so people listening may know the details better than I, but apparently the first version of the game's story was you were going to play basically, I don't know if it was chaotic evil, but it was a bad character, like a villain character. And I think it was called the Dark Urge or something like that, the Dark something. And they left that still in the game, and you can still play that way, but I think that was going to be the default way to play originally. And they got a lot of bad feedback, I think, that the players wouldn't feel good about playing this way. And so they kind of ended up, I think, putting in the more traditional, make your character what you want and make the decisions that you want. And I could have this wrong, and maybe people will correct me, but my understanding is that from a mutual friend of ours who was explaining it to me, who loves that game, that there is a path to play that is not the likable path. And you said it earlier, when we used games like Mass Effect, and then Witcher succeeded at this better, but even they make compromises. It's like the boldness of this stuff is taken out because because they don't want players to feel bad.
Right.
They want good decisions to matter, and and it's sanding off the edges, like we talk a lot about, right? It's making it less icky feeling, I guess, or something. Or
even just to appeal to a broader range, right? I mean,
it's the safer bet. They're going the
person
safe
who
route.
likes to play the hero generally. Like I like to aspire to the character, that I'm playing in a video game, in most cases, and even the ones where I'm playing, somebody's on the kind of dark side of the law, like Thief, like, well, his backstory is actually he was kind of a good guy, right? Or, Dishonored or whatever. It's like, they're trying to find that thread that they can pull through. Yeah, sure, you are out there stealing, but you are stealing from the rich,
Yeah, the
or
Robin
whatever.
Hood.
They're trying to find like that thing that will resonate, and Robin Hood resonates. Like that story's been around a while, and for good reasons. And then I guess the counter example for us would be something like Bloodlines or Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, where I mean it's you're a vampire. It's like there's not a lot of good there. And it's not designed to make you feel good. It's and I haven't played a lot of that. I've played some of that as a tabletop game. As a game that's very much about like politics between vampire clans and and betraying people at the right time, and really rich kind of story stuff. But it's like, well, there's a reason why that's not the one that everybody uses to model their role-playing games on. There's Bloodlines, and there's been a couple other things, and over the years, but it's not like D&D, where there's a million of them, or things that are
It's a
D&D
pretty
derived.
niche audience, I think, that wants to. Yeah, you're talking about the World of Darkness.
Yeah,
stuff
World of Darkness.
in
Yeah,
general,
generally. Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, that's a good counterpoint. I think. Yeah, I think it's just. And it's a blind spot that we've talked about, for me at least, especially, that people listening might have better examples for. But I can only assume there are some great examples of people making bold choices when it comes to the gray area in RPGs in the indie space. I can not, it's not one coming to mind. I don't know if like Undertale, I don't know what Undertale is all about, and people are going to throw things at me, but
it'd be
I
hard for
assume
me.
Undertale goes
Well,
places. And
I know a little bit about Undertale, but not enough to really comment. Yeah.
But I don't know if that's an example, but I know there are.
I think it's definitely one where if you make a choice, the quote unquote, that's the bad choice, like it definitely, like that cuts you off, period, from a certain ending or something like that. I do think that's true. That's kind of like the level, my very surface level understanding of Undertale.
Yeah. So, people out there doing God's work.
Yeah.
But
Lord British's work, I think
I've just been appreciative of, and I can't not mention Dark Souls. I just don't know how. I don't know what has happened to my brain, but I don't bring it up in the form of in to compare it to the decision making from a player decision making or a character decision making perspective, but I do bring it up in the return to taking some elements of games from the old days and putting them into a modern context, like difficulty, like mastery, and the punishment.
And it's a game with serious melancholy as well, right? And a dark ending. So
dark ending and just dark themes, but also I'm even just talking about returning to some of the gameplay elements that were left behind by sanding the edges off of everything, and still somehow they're super popular. So clearly the sanding the edges wasn't necessary to be successful, but there was this sense that was true. And with decision making and narrative, that's why I brought up Mass Effect. It's like, it's like they just made it black and white and very clear, and why. I don't know. It's just, I love Ultimate, to bring it back to the game, to have a character be snarky to me when they ask me if I'm just, is just not something you get anymore.
Yeah, it's very true.
It's just not. And you're like, well, what do they mean by that? And I'll never know.
Well, like, and the thing is it gives, because of the level of representation, it gives a lot of room for you to go like, geez, am I? I mean, it also ties into the whole framing for the whole thing, is that this is you, Tim, playing, right? Not
exactly. It's very meta.
It's like, because of that layer of like, well, you were just out in the field one day and you happened across this Ren Fair and fell into this world, I don't know, Land of the Lost style or whatever. You just happen now to be here. but it's actually you, the player, who is in this world now. When they ask you questions of like, well, are you always honest? And you're like, no, I live in 2026. How could you possibly always be honest? Right. And you're sitting there and you're like, well, but in the context of the game, have I always been honest? And it's like, geez, I don't even know if I can say that. So
yeah, and what does that even mean when I have such a limited vocabulary? Like,
right.
For me, I guess stealing something is an obvious binary choice, but other than that, like, what do you mean? Am I humble?
Yeah,
I'm playing a video game right now. Like, I can't choose to be. The nuance of that is like, what are you talking about, person?
Yeah.
But to your point, because of its era and its limited fidelity, it has that nice kind of sweet spot of, it's not a text adventure, but it sort of is.
Right.
It like gives you that sensibility where
it's still far enough from the uncanny valley that you can actually just fill in so much for yourself and not have that feeling. That's the problem with the uncanny valley, is it's so close to being good.
That's why it exists,
but not there. That you're just like, it just blasts away every illusion because it's doing too much work. It's trying to do all the work for your brain and not getting there. And this one is like, these games that are earlier are like, we're not trying to do any of the work your brain is doing. We're actually leveraging the fact that your brain is doing that work, to deliver the experience, and yeah. So, and in the places where it tends to fall down for me are things like I said, where it's like, because characters are not very distinct, that's where my brain goes, I have to take a million notes to keep track of this, and some of it I'm just not going to take, and like that friction is sort of my uncanny valley. It's like, every guard's the same. Do I really have to talk to every guard? Maybe there's one that's different, and that makes it hard, and that is the place where it sometimes breaks down for me. But
yeah, they definitely they outgrew their their desires, right? In some ways, because they're like, they that was a decision that they'd made. Design decision they made.
Yeah, I mean, they want more people, and
this number. Yeah,
they're limited. They're limited. They want their towns to feel occupied, and lively, but they don't have the memory. 64K. Yeah. They just don't have the memory to have every possible character be distinct. So.
Yeah, but hey, Baldur's Gate 3 did.
Sure, right.
It's like, interesting.
Yeah.
It's funny too, because I use that.
I would like to see the like Ultima IV like level of representation in a modern RPG, but I think we have with Dwarf Fortress. It's not quite the same type of game, but you get what I'm saying.
But oh man, yeah. But I did dabble with adventure mode.
Oh, cool.
In that game, and that is a whole nother thing. Like, holy cow,
that's a thing I totally want to. One of these days really get around to. I couldn't spending so much time with this game. So
yeah, I mean, starting adventure mode, because it sort of semi relates to Ultima in a way, but I couldn't believe what I was playing. I'll just say, right, within Dwarf Fortress. But oh shoot, what was I going to say? Baldur's Gate 3. The funny thing about Baldur's Gate 3, to compare it to like Ultima 4, the progenitor of this whole situation in a way, I think one of the and then you have Baldur's Gate 3 being the, I guess, current reigning champion of today. The funny thing about the fidelity is because I assume they use their character creation tools to make all their NPCs so distinct, and they really succeeded at that. But it's sort of the horseshoe effect at that point, because every NPC is pretty unique, but it also means I'm not sure which ones I really do need to care about.
Which ones matter.
Yeah. So it's a funny, like, wrap around, kind of
problem.
Horseshoe. Like cyclical snake eating its tail situation. Because you're like, wow, this town is living and everybody looks like their own person. And there's a lot of dialogue and a lot of ambient dialogue happening, and there's like, wait, which of these? Who am I here? And of
Yeah.
course
I
there's
mean, I remember even feeling that with like Planescape Torment,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Remember how just dense that game felt with characters that might be important? Like,
yeah,
I can remember coming into some of those town scenes and being like, and I would say that's kind of like at the limit of this sort of sprite based, right? That and the other games in
yeah,
that
right.
Infinity
That
Engine
Infinity Engine.
2D, era. It's like that was kind of pushing to the limits of what our brains can sort of like take in and sort, and like, and I don't really, I'm not a guy who plays games with one exception for more than 100 or 200 hours. Um and with yes, one notable exception. Um but and so I like to move on. I guess
But
I
when
don't.
you do,
Oh yeah, when I do,
you
it's
really do.
I really do.
I mean, we're not talking hundreds.
Yeah, no, we're not.
We're
But
below
anyway,
that.
I mean, it's we're pretty far afield at this point.
Well, yeah, and the reason the reason I brought up the NPC thing for this context in your
mm,
criticism for Ultima to finish that point is that even with the highest fidelity and best tools, i.e., character creation tools in the business, it's not like the problem you're talking about has been solved.
yeah. I mean, I think it's not
That
solvable, right? Because
there's
of
still
what's the number of people you can know? Like there's this number, right? I forget what it's called, but it's a
one.
soci no, it's like a sociological
No, for
number.
me, it's one.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
one at a
anyway.
time. But like it's like 200 people of like how many people you can actually kind of know in any given organization. You get bigger than a certain size and it's like impossible to know
Yeah.
that many people. And the same thing becomes true of anything. Like you watch a show that has, I don't know, whatever, let's say 10 seasons. And it's like, I'm if you're introducing a character in season 10 that has a relationship with somebody from season 1, I'm not going to, assuming there's a lot of characters in the show, I'm not going to remember the details of that person, and it's not going to hit with me, the importance of that thing, right? Which is why the longest running things, soap operas, just totally rehash their characters constantly. It's like it's
Yeah,
the
they don't
same
want to
people for
add new
ages
characters.
because they don't want
Yeah.
the burden. What they just want is the kind of shock and awe of like the horrible things that they do, but they don't actually want new people doing those things most of the time because we can't take all of that. So they pick one over the other in that case, right? So, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just a limitation of human brains, and I'm sure somebody's going to remind me of what that. I'm going to try to look it up because now it's going to drive me crazy. But
Well, it's
um,
interesting to think about what game design tools people come up with to
I think it's
help
Dunbar.
help
Dunbar's
a com.
number. Yes, Dunbar's number. Shoot, it's about 150. So anywhere in that 100 to 200 range. Okay, sorry.
Mm.
I
Well,
was trying
just
to look it up.
about how what modern game design elements people have come up with to try to kind of help with this challenge, right? It can be
Yeah.
anything from UI to to dialogue to audio to visual effect.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
lots of different sum of parts solutions to this, but people aren't going to stop making these big RPGs. It's just so funny to be playing this one and then having had finished Baldur's Gate, and they're the same game in a lot of ways,
Yeah. Yeah.
and with the same challenges, but also with the same um, amazing things
Yeah.
about them too.
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing I'll say that kind of is a modern storytelling thing that it would be interesting to see about. I'm trying to think of in the context of Ultima 4 is they chunked the game. Baldur's Gate is chunked into 3 chapters, and so they're able to
Mm,
take those chapters, and those chapters have a beginning, middle, and end. And to your point on memorable characters, the most of the characters from chapter 1 don't have a lot to do with chapter 3. So you kind
right.
of can push those out of your head. A few of them do show up again, of course, depending on what you've done as a character. Like they might be dead, but so there's a few that cross over, but for the most part, they have helped guide the player a little bit by chunking the game up. And with this game, my worry and the anxiety that I feel hearing where you are in the game as usual and where I am in the game is I start to get overwhelmed and anxious about that moment when I know there's too much for me to know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, let's say that there's an imaginary day when I do find all of the dungeons. Now I need to make sure I know what to do in all the dungeons,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
and I haven't even found them all, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's the multiplicative
Yeah,
effect of
yeah, for
that.
sure. I mean,
Yeah.
for me, I'm already finding like I've got all my notes here that I take while I play. I'm just using like printer paper. I have it feels like I guess it's eight pages that are
Yeah, exactly.
fairly dense. Some of them are like have a little bit of sketching on them because I know because they're shrines that I haven't gotten access to. So, but I know I have all the pieces. I haven't. In one case, I don't think I found the shrine or couldn't get to it until I got a boat. And the other case, I didn't. I was getting rejected from the shrine. I didn't know why, but I should have all the pieces. But in general, it's like these are pages full, and it's like, you know, place is the header, and then like just a bunch of tick boxes of like, make sure you do this, make sure you do that, and like I'm just trying to take notes of things that I'm gonna want to follow up on, and I have to every now and again, like every 5 hours or so, just go through all my notes and be like, what have I not done that I think
Yeah,
I can do,
exactly. Yeah,
you
you
know
have to. Yeah,
you have to kind of coalesce it down. So I now have a separate page. It's just like,
there's no
here are
quest
some
log.
things I know I can do right now. Like I've gone through my notes, and here are 5 things I can act on right now. I don't know what's going to happen when I do those 5 things, but and I've also gone, I've gone in like you found the dungeon wrong, and maybe we should talk about
Let's
dungeons
talk.
a little bit.
Let's. Yeah, sorry. We got.
Yeah, we've
I
gone
took
on
us
a
on a.
lot. No,
I
no, no.
took
I
us
mean,
on a tangent, but
it's good and useful, and I think it's indicative of like the problems. I mean, it's the relevance and impact. That a lot of these problems are still problems that are hard to solve, and people solve them in different ways. But I went into a dungeon and didn't have an item that I'm trying not to describe to you, so didn't know a thing I could do, and I was in that dungeon and it seemed like it only had 1 floor. So I left it. I'm like, well, I don't know what to do here. I guess I'll come back. I'm not entirely sure where that dungeon is, so I'm not sure how I'm going to find it again. I didn't take good notes on that. And then I went to wrong and I had an item that helped me. Again, being vague. And I was like, oh no. Like now I see what I probably missed.
oh,
And
you're saying there's an item that reveals things in the dungeon?
yes, that's what I'm saying in
Oh
a broad
my
way.
goodness!
Yep. And
Because
so I
I'm going
just,
in circles in that dungeon.
yeah,
As far
I
as I
know.
can tell, it's a figure eight.
Yeah,
That's all. That's what
it
I
is.
think.
It is very funny. Well, let me just bring in the telescope.
Oh my god! Please, that was a revelatory moment. I was like, are they really doing this?
What if you could have a telescope anywhere, Tim?
What?
Yeah. So there's an item that basically lets you see the map. And
Oh my god! For the dungeon?
for the dungeon, yeah, for the level you're on. Yeah.
So for instance,
Or,
that would
or any town. If you're in a town,
reveal a secret door or
it would
something.
show you where the secret doors are. Yeah.
Oh my
So now
gosh.
I'm like, I have this dungeon that I knew I didn't go far in. I've been making maps by hand, but now it's like, well, I have this thing. I just take a screenshot of the game.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
took screenshots of all the telescope things and like marked them like the ones I'm like, oh, okay, I know this. I recognize this is Moonglow. I recognize this is whatever. So I'm like, I know these are mostly places I have been. Some of them I wasn't. I mean, a lot of them I wasn't sure what it was. I was like, when I go back there, I'll just kind of match it up and notate my screenshotted map and be like, okay. But I mean, those things reveal things too of like, oh, I didn't know that. Like, you can look at that and be like, oh, I didn't know there was a thing there. There must be a secret door or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
And the
God,
same
what
thing.
is that? What is
Yeah.
that item you found? Now I'm really curious.
I know. Well, you have a boat, so I will just say you can get this item.
Okay, thank God.
Yeah. But you won't find it in it. That is one thing that modern games tend to do, and especially when it ties in with the magic system, is you tend to get the things you're going to need, like more reagents. For example, in this one, the treasure is always gold. You just get gold, and then you have to
Yeah, you're
go
not
back
gonna
and
pick it. Yeah, right.
yeah,
Yeah.
you have to go back and
You have to go
buy the
back and
things. You know,
well, it's a very preparatory game, which I know is one of our topics we might run out of time for, but it's been very interesting to me that preparing for doing things,
yeah.
especially with the reagents,
Well,
is even a
I went
thing.
into the dungeon called Despite. I think it was my third or fourth time entering it, where I was like, I think I have everything I need,
Yeah,
to get
wow.
all the way to the bottom level. And I didn't have that item yet that I'm mentioning. And I was like, dang, like now I'm like, I probably should go back, because there were levels in it that I was like, this feels really sparse. Like there was a level where I went down the ladder. So I went from, I think, level 4 to level 5. And on level 5, you were just in a one grid square room, and there's a ladder down as well as the ladder up in the same space. So it's like, is there more level there? Is there some other way to get to that level from a different level because of a secret door on a different level? I mean, it's just like
Mm.
my mind
It
just kind
might,
of
yeah,
like,
it might just be that. I mean,
it could also just
Eye
be
of the
that room.
Beholder did stuff like that
Yeah,
sometimes,
yeah.
right?
I
Where
know,
you,
I know.
yeah,
But it's like
yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
sitting
You
here
don't know,
now,
right.
so I have to go and test. And that's another thing about this game, is like you have to test a lot of, things that you were assuming,
Yeah,
to
yeah. But
validate your assumptions.
again, not to bring up the game that shall not be named again,
Oh, it
but
was named at 37 something, right?
third, yeah. It, I just the sense of discovery, because they don't give you that stuff, I think
Right.
is just so much more valuable,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah, I agree.
Finding the telescope that you were just mentioning in Lyceum, I could not believe they were doing it.
Yeah.
Like you're like, wait, knob? What knob? You go use the knob on the telescope? Are you kidding me? Okay, I'll see what I can do. And then it's like
Yeah,
from
mechanically
a
speaking, for listeners,
yeah,
you have a verb to search, and he basically tells you search around near the end of the telescope, and you can use the dial. And if you use the search verb standing next to the telescope, it'll basically tell you pick a letter from A through P. And then what happens, Tim? So I just want to give people a
yeah,
context of
yeah, yeah. You say
what they're actually
search, and
doing in the
then
game. Yeah.
it says, and then it basically triggers the use of the knob, and when you press one of the letters, you get an overhead map, like I guess you're kind of looking through the telescope of all of the overworld towns.
It's amazing.
16 locations rather.
Yeah.
I guess we don't know if they're all towns, but 16 locations, and in Lord British's castle's case, there's multiple levels that they show you too. So it's obviously, a little bit hand wavy there, but so you see the top and the ground floor and the top floor, but I predict that one of the maps is also another floor, but I could be wrong on that. But it also is revealing secret rooms if you hadn't found them.
Right.
Some of the flow, like some of the back area through the secret passageways in the castle, I hadn't found. I'd found some of the other ones, but that's where you get back to that weird door in the back where they say once you go in, you don't come out.
Yeah.
So, and I haven't found a key in the game at all, so I can't go through locked doors right now.
Uh-huh.
I don't even know where those keys are.
I do.
so yeah, I mean, but that's another thing, right? It's like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just like another.
When you get it, you'll be like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna have to go visit everywhere." That's the other thing that happens, right? Is like,
Yeah, yeah.
it's sort of like it's got sort of the Metroidvania kind of style thing in it too. Of like, whenever you have a new capability, you're like, "Oh man, I wish I had taken notes of all the places I could have used this." Because now
Yeah.
I just have to go back to everything. And in my
Yeah.
case, I mostly was like, I think there was one locked door. That's what you need the keys for. There was one locked door where I'm like, I really want to get in there. I can see there's a person in there just kind
Yeah.
of standing near the entrance. I want to get in there and see what that's about. And I made a note of it. And ultimately I was able to do that. And that's actually where I got the intro to this week's episode. So, That is, and
Okay.
it seems important. Like it's part of the philosophical quest. The information that's behind that door. Is it necessary to complete the game? Don't know, but that's the kind of open-ended nature of this game. Maybe we'll dive back into dungeons because you've barely scratched the surface of dungeons. You've been in one
Yeah,
a little
no,
bit.
it was a miracle I got into one
Yeah,
before we recorded, to be
before
honest.
yeah. All right, so let's just call it there, and we're ostensibly going to finish this game up for next week, and I mean, I think we will do that. I think we are. I think we've captured the flavor of the game, regardless of whether we finish it by next week rather. I think we've talked a lot about what this game is all about. Even though there's more of it, I think we have hit a lot of the stuff. So I think we'll be in a good place to do that. But we're going to turn to emails now. Before you do, we got an email. I'm not going to read it, but I will put a link in the show notes with a YouTuber who's in a series of excellent videos. The person says of each of the Ultimate games, and is doing both gameplay recaps and sort of the backstory of both Richard Garriott and other developers. He sent the link for 4, and I will put that in the show notes. I just want to shout out Chris for sending that in. I appreciate it. I meant to mention it last week and I forgot, so you're getting it this week. But there'll be a link for that in the show notes. Why don't you go ahead with the first email, and I will do one following that.
Okay. Subject is Thomas, Ringo, and the Fat Controller. Okay. From Sasha. Dear devs, first of all, wow, that charity stream event was great, wasn't it? Oh, that's nice of you to say. The team did a great job on that. I just wanted to send my thanks to the organizers via you from my seat in the audience. Yes, the organizers, amazing, and they did a lot of work on that. Now, this was going to be a letter about Pikmin. I had already decided that it would be a nice surprise for you to receive this letter because you never get any mail about Nintendo titles. So, yeah, it was going to be about Pikmin. And the letter I would have written would definitely have impressed you with something insightful. But sadly, even I have no idea what that would have been. And we'll just have to imagine how we all would have felt. Okay, Sasha. You see, I had been playing along with the pod last year, but coming back to it a few days ago, I found that I had no idea how to control it. Yeah, I had the same experience. And even before that, I couldn't understand which landing site I needed to visit. And I was confused by the UI, which, in terms of gloss and shininess, I can now see has been copied by Apple and their new OS. Oh, don't get me started on that new OS.
Well, yeah,
It's
me either.
bad.
Yeah.
And needless revision that suggests they've run out of ideas. Oh, nice. Good shade. Someone who hasn't run out of ideas, though. Look out! Here comes segue. Segue.
Yeah. Just probably didn't know how to spell segue.
Is Nintendo's Shigeru Miyamoto, or Shiggy as I privately call him. I don't privately call him, to be clear. Although, wouldn't it be cool to have his phone number? Wait, do you think he carries a phone? I bet it's a clamshell shaped literally like a clamshell. Oh my gosh, Sasha, where's
all over
this
the
going?
place. It's all over
Where
the
was
place.
I? Oh, Pikmin. Yeah, that game has a lot of friction to surmount for a Nintendo first party game. I totally agree. Spend a little time away, and the thought of returning is actually kind of daunting. It's not without joy, of course. I was really into it in the beginning. Probably I should return to it when with the help of a walkthrough. But for now, the best I could manage to do with it was to promptly eject the disk and pop in Animal Crossing instead. Even an hour of pulling out weeds in the snow and being insulted by villagers was less demanding than 10 minutes of Pikmin, which sounds like I'm being flippant, but perhaps it's about stakes. When you sit down to play Pikmin, you have to be in the right headspace to lose a lot and be totally zen with that. Sorry if this letter is a bit off topic. I'm always late to write and don't know what you're playing this week, but I do have one point to make. Tim should get a pro controller. Well, I have one. We always mention he always mentions his frustrations with the Joy-Cons every time he plays a Switch, right? And as for Brett, maybe he's less of a naughty kid. I'm not sure. But he does use an old third-party PS3 controller that only half listens to him, and I know that I know he has wrist issues to manage. So I just wanted to gently chide you both into making sure you get a hold of best controllers, so that you can be kinder to your hands and so that your play experiences can be more faithful to the best hopes of the designers. Okay, thank you for indulging my bossiness. You don't have to listen to me, though. Best wishes to you both, Sasha. Wow, that was a roller coaster ride.
Sasha. Yeah, it was a journey. Yeah, I mean, I would totally get a great PS3 controller if it was possible to get those anymore. It's too old a system to actually get decent controllers for anymore, as has been my experience anyway. I don't know if people have recommendations.
Got to be some third party.
Well, it's just, how do you determine what is a decent PS3 control? Like, I can't imagine the market for PS3 controllers is large enough for there to be good ones.
I just mean, I don't know. I haven't done the research, but there's some of those like what do you call it? I was going to say aficionados, but that's not the term. Some of the
connoisseurs, I don't know.
Connoisseurs of there's some companies that specialize in that. I mean, they're more expensive, and I think they work on multiple different systems too. But
yeah, there might be something like this sort of universal remote kind of thing. I honestly wouldn't mind investing. It's just I never want to sit down because I don't actually play my PS3 much. So I still have PS4 and PS5 controllers that work perfectly fine and we'll use for those systems, but like the PS3 is basically for the podcast at this point, and it's not something we hit on.
Same. Yeah.
But for you, I mean, the thing with the Switch is like you mostly want to play it in handheld mode.
That's the thing, Sasha. Yeah, I mean, I totally get you, and I think we both said it multiple times that the best controller ever made is the Wavebird, and I mean on any system. I'll go to my grave with that one, unless they make a better one. Which is essentially the best GameCube, the best version of the GameCube controller.
Yeah.
So I do, and I actually do agree with you. I really, really like the Pro controller for the Switch, but I have this sickness where I'm not playing a Switch unless it's in handheld. Otherwise, why am I playing a Switch? You know what I mean? That's my perspective on it, because I love handheld gaming so much, like a lot. Like it's
a problem.
Yeah, the people, my whole life, like
he'll complain about the controller all day long, but he'll still play it over the good controller.
Yeah, that's true. But with the Switch specifically, my frustration and the reason I'm okay complaining about it is that they intentionally built the system to be a portable system, right? Yes, you can plug it in, and yes, it is also a TV. That's why it's called a Switch. But they also stand behind their decision to make it they claim a good portable device, and have been anyway, I've been a fan of all their portable devices from the beginning, and so I just they chose to make a hybrid system, and I think when you make anything hybrid like that, you're going to make sacrifices. And they did with the Joy-Cons. So, but yeah, it's a choice for me. It's like I'm choosing one over the other. And
we gave him light, and he chose darkness. That's
yeah. I mean, literally, I'm recording the podcast sitting next to a big screen TV with a sofa with the Switch. What do you call it?
Yeah,
dock is there, and that's how I charge my Switch. And then I just take it out of the charger thing and I walk away. And the Pro controller's also connected. It gets literally 2 feet from me. I could do that. I was like, nope. In fact, when I played Pikmin, I was sitting at my desk with the handheld next to the TV.
Oh man,
I could have just put it in there and just grabbed the Pro Controller.
This is where you and I differ very much. I mean, it's because I didn't have a Game Boy until I was, I don't know, 30 or something like that. So, like for me, portable Game Boys was never a thing, growing up. So it's
I love it. I was looking up the analogs. Analog has the Analog Pocket, which I think they're sold out still. But I was looking at the site the other day just to dream.
Oh boy,
those things are awesome.
Yeah, no, I've seen a lot of those and been like, those are really cool, and I would totally never play it, so I'm not gonna get one. But I get it, I know they're attractive. All right, I have one here. Thank you, Sasha. I have one here from Ashton Herman, frequent emailer. It is titled Ultima and Character Creation, so a little bit more on topic. No, I mean, the Pikmin one came in a little bit ago. So anyway, he says, hey, Brett and Tim, I've been really excited for you guys to start your playthrough of Ultima 4 because while I have hardly any experience with the series, it's always been one that fascinated me due to one very specific, vivid memory I have from my childhood. I was maybe 8 or 9 when my family got our first PC, a Windows 3.1 machine with a 4X CD-ROM and a sealed plastic envelope chock full of pack-in software. In addition to a pretty rad copy of the Encyclopedia Britannica on disc, we got some true classics like Monkey Island, Wing Commander, and yes, Ultima. It was actually Ultima 5, not 4, but your description of the character generator conjured up memories of my brief experience with the game's character creation. In it, a Romany woman asks you a series of questions and mixes various potions of different colors to ultimately produce the character class you'll begin the game as. I was too young and inexperienced with RPGs at the time to have even the faintest idea of what was happening, and I bounced off the game almost immediately afterwards. But I never forgot that game's approach to character creation, and I can see that image of the woman and her many colored potions as clearly in my mind today as I did 30 plus years ago. It got me thinking about some of my other favorite character creators in games throughout the years, like Morrowind's and Fallout 3's. Dragon Age Origins even launched their character creation tool ahead of the game's release so that players could start brewing their heroes while they waited to finally play it. I remember that. That's true.
Baldur's Gate 3 did as well. I mean, they had they released
an app or something. Yeah.
A full chapter,
actually, D&D 3.5 did as well. Do you remember they had a character sheet tool that they also released?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or it's 3.0.
Well, 3,
yeah. And then it was there was a CD in the player's handbook, I believe.
Yep, I remember that.
Character creation is such an essential part of the role-playing experience for many games, but it's also often the most perfunctory. I'm curious now if you guys have any favorites from the games you've played over the years. Thanks as always, Ashton Herman. Any favorite character creators for you, sir? I have a terrible answer to this, so people are going to hate. But that's we'll see how it goes.
That's a good question.
All right, you were going to have to think about it because I just threw this at you. So you think while I say I almost never care. I usually just hit the random button until I see a character that I'm like, that's all right. Like I can see being with that, for the next 40 hours or whatever. And the one exception I think was Mass Effect. I actually spent a lot of time making my femshep, and I was happy I did because then that character actually carried over to Mass Effect 2 and 3. So I actually had the same character through them, albeit with more scars and stuff because of what happens at the beginning of Mass Effect 2. So I was actually, that was the one I ever spent some time in, and I can still remember what my femshep looked like, but yeah, in general, I almost always just sit there and just hit random a bunch of times until I'm like, yeah, that's okay. And often I'll just skip past the one that's okay because I just keep hitting the button so fast after a while. It's for me, it's kind of, because the thing is, in many of these games, you don't even actually see the characters all that much. It's just kind of pointless to spend a ton of time on it. Although that is, as time has gone on, that's been less and less true, especially in BioWare games. You tend to see them face to face, in conversations. But yeah, in general, I've never cared. So, you, sir.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I mean, it just, it's a good character answer for you as a character, your character, your character profile. No, so my answer is, maybe also weird because he did mention some of the Bethesda games, which I think are also come up for a lot of people, right? Because of the flexibility and kind of the identity you get and stuff. And again, to your point, ironically, a lot of people play those in first person anyway, but still, it still matters. And I'm a big MMO player, as people know. But the interesting thing for me in character creation that frustrates me is, and this I'll try to. I won't let this go on too long. But my soapbox for this.
I was gonna say I hear a soapbox being constructed.
Yeah, my quick soapbox for this is I actually don't like character creators at all, and it's not for I kind of use the approach you use often, where I'll do some customization, but I use their features to kind of find one that I like, and then maybe modify it a little bit. But honestly, I appreciate the games like RPGs, especially. That's why I brought up Witcher 3. I'm playing a character within that RPG, and I want the story to be wrapped around that character. And whenever, and this is, I think, if people remember our Baldur's Gate series, and that's where Ultima differs a little bit, because in Ultima, I'm playing myself, apparently. And so, but in Baldur's Gate, it's like, and I would say all the BioWare games pretty much, you have to be a generic character because you are the savior of the world. And they kind of and they have to accommodate anybody you make. Any character you make, and your character creator has to work.
Yeah.
So then it kind of it means they're going to make certain decisions. And so I play those games, but they're not my first choice. I think that's why I bounce off of Bethesda games. It's I'm just this generic hero.
Yeah.
It's
it's been it definitely is a thing with Bethesda games that is, I mean, they're aware of it, right? I mean, I'll just say it.
And they made a choice. I'm not saying they should do their thing. I'm not trying to say
but they're also at the same time aware of the way that hems them in, and and one of the things that was quite cool about, and I had not seen this before in Fallout 3, when I was playing that game before release, I went and I did the character creation, and the really wild thing is they actually use the features you choose to inform the features of the parent, and I was like, because the parent is, both parents I think are there. Well, obviously both parents are there. I mean, the father is there, and you can see his face masked, because he's in, a hospital room, effectively, in a vault or something. I don't remember the specifics, but so you don't actually see his features, and so I thought that was.
I just thought of one.
And then later they retrofit the choices you made to make the father look like you, which I thought was really.
That was very cool.
I had nothing to do with that whatsoever. That was all done long before I was there. And I was just like, chef's kiss. That is a beautiful choice.
That was a brilliant maneuver. Yeah.
Never really would have thought to do. Yeah.
But that was a very specific.
I loved it for that reason, but
very specific thing. So, and I think for me, it shined because of that decision, but otherwise, but the other example I was going to give that's kind of my real answer tends to be the Blizzard approach. As people know, I'm a Blizzard fan, and there is character creation in WoW, but it's within kind of a band, right? So you're customizing your face and your character somewhat, but they've given you a bunch of presets, and some of that was technical limitations or production limitations, but also it means that your characters are still fitting. They have generic heroes. You're the chosen one in that too, because everyone's a hero, even though it's millions of players. But then the other example that I've been playing a lot of lately is Diablo, and Diablo has a nice balance for me in that you are the wanderer, but they also have predetermined sort of characters for you. So it's again, that kind of nice sweet spot for me. So I definitely tend to, I'm 20 episodes into Diablo lore series on YouTube right now. So, I'm troubled, but I just like the hybrid approach where you where they've made some conscious decisions that put the characters that you're playing in a role, but then you have a little bit of customization too. So
yeah.
But my real answer is Metal Gear Solid V. The beginning of that game, you make your character, and it's for a very specific reason, and then you never see that character again. And it's brilliant.
That is very Kojima to make you do that.
Yeah,
It's
it was
so
like,
him.
what are we doing here?
Well,
Do you remember all the PR
I had one
for that?
Yeah, I don't, but yeah, I can imagine.
They had a character. They had an actor with their face wrapped up.
Oh, right,
And
exactly.
that's the opening character before they reveal their face, which anyway, it's brilliant.
The other one I was going to mention, not because I played it, but because we all were having so much fun with it, was I think we were working on Skyrim. I was in the office, and a Saints Row game came out. I think it was 4, and a bunch of designers, artists, a bunch of people were just hanging out in the sort of lounge next to the kitchen and playing around with the character creator. And what I loved about it is they made just like this ridiculously ugly character. And I love that as a choice, like that you could make a character that was just ridiculous. And then they had a voice option, which was also like basically unintelligible. So this character basically looked like something out of a Call of Cthulhu, I don't know, Innsmouth or something town. Like, it just was so absurd. It was just the worst looking face ever. And then couldn't effectively speak, and then was real time in the cutscenes. And so like the president, or maybe you're about to become president. I think you get named president at the beginning of that game.
4, I think you're president. Yeah, that's
like they're introducing you, and it's like the Secretary of State or something is saying something to you, and then this character comes up, and you can't even understand what he's saying. And it was just like we were all laughing so hard, and it was funny because just one of the ridiculous things about those kind of games, that particular series was like, yeah, sure. If you want to be a total weirdo who can't even speak, we'll just support that. It'll be funny.
That was their thing.
Yeah. So
to bring the question back to Ultima for a second, I just was realizing too that I wanted to, maybe for my point, I'll close on, even though again, Metal Gear Solid V is the best one.
Or 5, as I call
it. Yeah, that's your choice. Starting Ultima IV with the character creation anxiety that I have, and I've just talked way too long about, was a freeing experience for me, because I didn't remember how it probably worked similarly for 3, but I hadn't done that in so many years. And I just liked answering questions and then having the game. That's why I didn't go and try to get a different choice. I was like, I'm just going to embrace what the game does. And they gave me Tinker, and I'm a Tinker, and that's based on my choices, and I'm done. Like, I don't have to nitpick anything. It's like the game has handed me this. And for me as a player type, I really appreciated that.
Yeah, that's fair. And I definitely remember the colorful screens in 5, or not 5, 6 for me. It was really lovely. This one also had a lot in 4. There were a lot of colors, more than just the 9 of the opening scene. I think they went all the way up to like 13. I saw some cyans in there. Anyway, thanks for the question, or the discussion, Ashton, and the question at the end there, for sure. And prompted some good discussion. So we love to get your emails. Those were sent to devgameclub@gmail.com. We also love to get your reviews. I see the Apple ones, and we had a whole saga a few weeks ago for the ones from somewhere else. So if you just want to poke us with an email if you've reviewed us somewhere else, we think we're pretty great, and it's the only way we reach new listeners. So go ahead and do that. We're on the web at devgameclub.com, and my co-host Twitch is at twitch.tv/
Tim Longo Jr. with the JR at the end.
A special edition. Is it this week?
It is, yeah, and I forgot to mention it. Did I mention it last week? I don't remember.
I think you did, yeah.
I did forget to mention it in my stream. So this is coming out the day of, so some people may not listen to this in time. But yeah, if you're listening to it on the day of, thank you for doing that. That's very nice of you. But the evening that this comes out, we're doing a little bit of a bonus to the charity event that one of our emails, Sasha was mentioning. There's a few of us who, due to some of the unlocks, owe the community some further streaming. So yeah, so Asher is going to be doing Cuphead no hit.
Wow.
Supposedly,
Okay.
which one infamous Kyle has said
you can never be hitting Cuphead if you don't play. That's how I achieve it.
Apparently, I'm a no hit then.
Yep, I'm a no hit Cuphead myself.
Yeah, so Kyle says Asher's pretty good, so that'll be interesting. And then Asher's going to raid into me. I'm doing a wrenchy run of Hitman in costume, which is basically I make the game very difficult for myself and play as a clown as well. And then I'm going to dress as a clown as I play.
Yeah.
And try to do Silent Assassin suit only run. And then I will raid into FSS Zilla, who is going to be playing the VR missions for Metal Gear Solid 1. So,
cool.
Yeah. Come
Awesome.
by. I think it starts at 5 p.m.
Eastern. I mean, Western, Pacific.
Western, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, you can also find details of that on the Discord. There's a link to that as well in the show notes. Our intro and outro music was written and performed by Kirk Hamilton, commissioned by friend of the cast, Aaron Evers, and our logo, that Discord, our merch store, all by Mark Garcia. Have fun placing 4 different stones on the altar of courage this week, and good night.
What? Good night.